Talking with the experts.
You've probably found this in dealing with organizations. There's some very, very bright people on a day-to-day basis running, different things who aren't given that credit or aren't given the opportunity to showcase their talents. And when you work with them, first of all, they love it because there's some spotlight on them, and they get to deal with some of the ideas that people didn't let them do before that they've been holding in and going, if only I could get this done, then things would be so much better. And again, when executives see that and see that people are willing to take initiative and to make improvements because they don't want to deal with problems day in and day out every day and the messes. They want to come in and they want to be able to do whatever it is they're supposed to do and not have all the problems in the world piled on their shoulders.
Talking with the experts.
Hello and welcome to Talking with the Experts. Talking with the Experts is about all things business by business owners for business owners, and you can find it on all good podcasting streaming platforms and on YouTube. I'm Rose Davidson, your host from rosedavidson.com. And today my guest is Peter Christian, and Peter is going to speak with us about how you, as business owners, can make your businesses more successful. And Peter was a founding partner and president of Espy, a business consulting firm in northeastern Pennsylvania. Previously, he was an executive at Crayola Corporation. Oh my God, I wish I'd have known that. I could have got my crayons from you. He has worked with 300 plus clients in business development, profit improvement, operations, IS selection and implementation and project management. He has over 40 years of experience in strategic and facility planning and CI, lean and supply chain. He has helped companies to realize millions of dollars in cost reductions and profit improvements, adding and retaining thousands of jobs. He has authored an Amazon best-selling business book, What About the Vermin Problem? That sounds interesting. It influences and influencers, and is published in a variety of professional magazines. Welcome, Peter. What an impressive resume.
Thank you, Rose. Glad to be with you.
Yeah, I wish I had known you were at Crayola. I mean, all kids dream of having a Crayola caddy, don't they?
Yes, they do. And at my time was a box of 64. Now I think it's 108 or 120 or some crazy number.
Something like that. But they are the best crayons on the market, I have to say.
Absolutely.
I've actually watched them being made, not personally, but on a video. And it's really intriguing. And they're all how they're all tested and quality tested, and it's amazing. I loved it. I just thought the process was spot on, and that they deserve their spot in the world.
My favorite was one time a busload of children came for a plant tour when we still allowed that, and one little fella gets off the bus and goes, "Smell those crayons," and I just thought that was the greatest thing I had ever heard. Made my day.
Smell those crayons, eh? Yep.
Smell those crayons.
That's hilarious. I like that. He should have won a prize for that comment.
He should have.
So tell me a little bit about what your business does to help business owners to be more successful.
Well, even though I officially retired from ESPI in 2018, I'm still active with some consulting work. But mostly I've been writing and speaking, trying to share the experiences I had when I was full-time in consulting practice and in the business world with companies, to tell them about good practices and not so good practices. Just like you had started with your introduction, we're here to tell people how to be more successful, particularly in these trying times. But even before that, there were lots of issues that they dealt with. And through the the various companies that I've worked with, I've found some that did things extremely well and others that did things extremely poorly. And you can imagine who was successful and who wasn't. So I'm trying to emphasize the successful part to companies and get them to take the right path, so to speak.
Yeah, I have had conversations with other consultants such as yourself about, how people or businesses just oftentimes aren't doing the right thing either by the company or by their employees, because, they have too many managers, not enough leaders, because managing and leading, as you and I both know, and I'm sure the majority of our viewers and listeners know, that it's not the same thing. You can
Very
manage
different.
a business, but you don't necessarily know how to lead. And I have found that quite often, even in corporations, it's too top heavy. They don't listen from the bottom up. They're too. I don't even think that the managing director would even have been on the floor to meet his ground staff at all. And I think it's really bad.
Too interested in telling people what they know instead of listening to what the people know and dealing with that. Big problem.
Absolutely. So I guess what is one of the steps that you take a business through to make them to help them to become more successful?
I think it's a twofold thing. One is to identify just where the problem areas are, but then to recognize that they've caused a lot of those problems. It's, getting that recognition that, yeah, we're part of the problem and we need to change what we're doing in order to make things better, and then to do it. Okay, that's sometimes the hardest part, because even when you point out to executives and companies things that are going wrong, they can be reluctant in making changes for whatever reason, and then we can go into that and spend quite a bit of time.
It'll take days of conversation,
days and days and days. Yes, and never get through them all. But that's the biggest problem, and then to stick with it, because it's not a very quick, 1 second thing and then everything is okay. It takes work. And you didn't get to the point of having problems overnight, and it's not going to be overnight to solve them, and you can get back into that if you let things lapse again. So there's a lot in there, and the good ones get it, and they will do well, and the bad ones won't. And you probably know the statistics on company failures. It's not a good number.
No,
unfortunately,
no.
because a lot of them don't get it. Like you said, there's a lot of managers out there, but not a lot of leaders. And we need more and more leaders to step up.
Yeah. So how do you convince a business owner, a manager, that, there are issues within his organization that need to be fixed? He's the cause of the problem. He or she is the cause of that problem, and once they've recognized that, how do you then get them to turn around what they're doing to make improvements?
I think what you have to do, what I've tended to do, is to go slowly and try to show them small incremental improvements so that they understand what the process is and what they have to go through, and then start to get into some of the bigger issues. Because if you start with the big ones right away, first of all, if you've got resistance, it's going to be difficult to make the changes. And if it takes too long a time, everybody wants to have everything happen immediately. They want to see that instantaneous gratification. So if you can give them some small successes that they can build on, and they realize what's going on, and kind of lead them into where they're part of the problem. If you hit them smack dab in the face with it, you're going to get a lot of pushback, and they may just kick you out the door, even though that's the wrong thing to do. I watch some of these reality shows where they talk to companies, and the guy gets in the other guy's face, and they yell and they scream. It doesn't work that way.
No, absolutely
If it
not.
does, you're not going to get anywhere. So you've really got to take the time to convince them. And again, it's not an overnight thing. It's a process. It takes some time to make it happen. So you've got to go slow, get those successes, get their trust, let them take the next step and the next step and the next step. If that happens, then I think they'll be fairly successful.
Yeah, I think that's true. I mean, babies don't walk in a day, do they? You know, it takes them a while to learn
Absolutely.
how to do that. So yeah, but little baby steps.
Right.
So do you advocate that the business actually engage a change manager, or do you just do that yourself? Do you facilitate that change?
I do that, but with the recognition that I'm only there for a short period of time, even if it's a year or a year and a half or 2 years, that's a short period of time in the lifetime of a company. And they've got to realize that they've got to take over whatever it is that I'm doing for them and with them. And take control of it and take ownership of it, because when I walk out the door, or the folks that I'm working with, compatriots of mine, walk out the door, if it stops, then we failed. They didn't get it. All right. They didn't take the ownership. They don't realize they're key to this. It's got to become part of what they're doing and part of their culture and part of how they're going to manage the company or lead the company. And if they don't do that, and they rely on myself or somebody like me to do that, the day we walk out the door, it falls apart. And I've seen that happen already.
Yeah,
unfortunately.
It
Yes.
happens a lot. And so I guess one of the steps that you may incorporate might be getting the managers to take some leadership training, because not all people are born leaders, and sometimes it's a learned skill. Others are born leaders, and that's just how they're made up. So do you advocate these managers who aren't leading their team so well undertake some training?
Yes, absolutely. Just in the work that I do, there's training involved, because again, the tools, the techniques, the processes that we go through are probably different for them. They're not used to it, or they weren't very good at it, so they've got to learn those things. But it may require even more than that, outside of just the work that I and again my colleagues are doing. They may have to go to some seminars and deal with other managers and leaders from other companies, and understand that there's a lot of that commonality of problems and issues that they're dealing with, and they've got to start to work with each other and realize that sometimes it's easier for you to see somebody else's problems and go, oh my goodness, I don't want to deal with that, than to look in the mirror at yourself and go, I don't want to deal with that. It's not my issue. And I think when they make that connection, that the struggles that other people are going through, which are the same as them, and they realize what the cause is for it, then the light bulb goes off. So yeah. In some cases, they've got it. They just kind of forgot about it, and they don't need to go through the training. They just need to be reminded about the stuff that they've gone through already and start to practice it. We all get lazy. We get sloppy at times. We forget things, and we just need somebody to kind of put us back in line again. So there can be some of that as well. So it really depends on the situation. And some of them are just beyond hope. No matter what you do, it doesn't matter. They're just not going to get it. And you truly do say there are some people who just aren't meant to be in business. It's sad to say. They shouldn't be business owners. Maybe they should work for somebody or find something else to do, but not try to run an enterprise.
Yeah, my daughter recently had an employer that used to scream at the staff, all of them, for the tiniest infraction, that could have easily been solved with a conversation.
Yeah.
And
doesn't work.
She had to leave for her mental health, because honestly, she was just becoming a total mess. It was awful. Sure. Anyway. Yeah. But you get those organisations, which is unfortunate. I've worked for a few of them as well. I used to temp quite a lot, and I'm a bit of a change agent, and I could go into a business and say, well, now they might have these procedures that were, 10 steps long, and I could probably do them in 7. So when I brought this up to the owner or manager or whoever it might be, they thought I didn't work there very long after that, because, why should they change what they were doing when it's worked for 10 years, or, and didn't value the information that I'd shared with them and how they could, make their company better. So, yeah, I just stopped temping, and I just opened my own business, because I thought, well, if I've got something wrong, then I can tell myself off.
Yes.
Yeah, all right. So, Peter, tell me, I guess, once you've gone through the process of, re-educating the manager or leader, then does that filter down through to the, to the ground floor, to the employees and staff members?
I try to include everyone that I possibly can while I'm engaged with an organization, because they need to hear the same thing that the executives are hearing. And they also, you've probably found this in dealing with organizations, there's some very, very bright people on a day-to-day basis running, different things, who aren't given that credit or aren't given the opportunity to showcase their talents. And when you work with them, first of all, they love it because there's some spotlight on them, and they get to deal with some of the ideas that people didn't let them do before, that they've been holding in and going, if only I could get this done, then things would be so much better. And again, when executives see that and see that people are willing to take initiative and to make improvements, because they don't want to deal with problems day in and day out every day, and the messes. They want to come in and they want to be able to do whatever it is they're supposed to do, and not have all the problems in the world piled on their shoulders. So getting them involved and getting the executives to realize that if they turn over some of the responsibility to those folks and let them do and let them achieve, that it'll be a much better place for everybody. And they want to do it. It's just they're not allowed to in a lot of cases. So once you open that up, it's pretty hard to, like I say, put the genie back in the bottle once you've opened it. And then they realize that it also makes it a lot easier for them, because they've taken so much on themselves that everything's on their shoulders. So nothing happens without their okay. Well, you can understand what a bottleneck that is to an organization when a person or a few people control everything. But once that control opens up a bit and they don't have to do as much, it takes some of the pressure off of them and allows them to do things that they aren't doing because they're so involved with the day-to-day minutia that they don't need to be involved in. So I try. In fact, I usually have a better relationship with the people on the floor than I do up in the office, because like I said, they will tell you stuff. They're very bright. They're energetic. They want to do things. They just need to be allowed to do things. And if I can bring that forward, then so much better. I did a lot of that at Crayola, and I had a great time with the folks. I had a wonderful relationship with them. Once they understood what I was there to do and how it would help them, we had a great relationship.
Yeah, I think that is a lot of the issues, is that managers want to micromanage their staff, and they just so dislike it when their staff members are more clever than they are, or or they perceive them to be smarter, when in actual fact they're not. They're just looking outside the box, where the managers quite often, or business owners, is too close to the issue and really can't see the wood for the trees, so to say.
Yeah. One of the things when I was at Crayola, I had a team of folks, and we would have a monthly meeting to go through, what was going on with new products and with the existing products and shipments and production and so forth. And the first couple of meetings, I ran them, and then after that, they ran the meetings themselves. I just sat there. So the customer service guy would get up and he would talk about what was going on with shipments and if orders were being delayed and what the problems were. And he would turn it over to either the engineering guy or the quality guy or the purchasing guy. And they would talk about what they needed to do. And I sat there. I didn't have to say a word. And the entire meeting was run. And I just sat there and went, they've got it. They got exactly what we're trying to do here, and I didn't have to say a word. And it wasn't a lack of control on my part. It was a pinnacle of control because I didn't have to do anything. They knew what to do. All right. And if I had to interject something every now and again, I had to interject something. But by and large, they ran the meetings, and it was great. And that was a one-time experience. I never had anything quite like that. But it was really a marvel to see when you turn people loose and they do stuff like that. So the capabilities are there if you allow it to happen.
It's the allowing though that is the issue. So tell me about your book. What about the vermin problem? What is that about? That is a really creepy title.
Got your attention though, didn't it?
Absolutely.
Yes, it is not about extermination, although there are some people who there are on occasion, pushing towards that. But the title came from one of the experiences I had, which was dealing with a client where we were trying to expand their current facility and reorganize it and so forth. Had a lot of problems throughout the entire project. And then finally put stakes in the ground, said, okay, this is it. We've got as much information as we're going to get. Came out with the reorganization and so forth. And what it was an expansion of the facility. And we were going to move the different departments around, and we were going to put production where the warehousing was and warehousing where the production was. And the owner looked at us, myself and my colleague, and said, well, what about the vermin problem? And I looked at my friend and he looked at me and we looked at him and we said, what vermin problem? And he said, well, we have vermin here in the facility. And if you put the production where the warehousing is, that's where the vermin are. And we can't have that in production. And we're sitting there going, first of all, we didn't know there were vermin because you never brought that up and all the time we talked to you. And secondly, if they're in the plant and they're in where the materials are, you still got a vermin problem that you need to take care of. So why aren't you taking care of that? There were things called exterminators and, all sorts of stuff. And the whole thing just fell apart because of that. And what that section of the book was about communication or lack of communication and how things tend to go awry when there isn't good communication among folks. And I always say communication is just like we're doing here and just like you're doing. I'm talking to you and saying something. You're nodding. One, you're receiving the information. Okay, so you're saying, yep, I hear what you're saying. Then at some point you come back and kind of talk about some of the stuff that I talked about and add to it, which means you have a recognition of what I said. And you may say, kind of support that or change it a little bit, but at least you're taking some action on it. So a message given, message received, message acted on. And that's really what communication is about. It's not just I send a memo out, you read it, nothing happens, I never hear from you, I don't even know if you read it or not, who knows what, and a lot of people think that's communication. But the book took that and other aspects. They were all instances that happened with clients where I said, someday this should be in a book, and it was about good and bad experiences. And just like with communication can be good or bad. In this case, it was bad. But in instances where it's good, things happen wonderfully. Okay, when you're communicating, we're having this problem, this is what we need to do about it, or what do you think about what we should do, and we talk about that and we move ahead with it. The same was true with other things like trust, building trust or not having trust, and what that can be. So it was a compilation of those experiences, and it's a book to get out in front of people to say, if you don't do things poorly, then you will be successful. If you do things well, you'll be successful. If you don't do things well and do them poorly, you're going to have problems, to the point where you may even risk losing your business. And I had a couple of clients where that happened with me, and I felt terrible about it, but they just didn't get it, and they did whatever they wanted to. One was where they knew more than I knew. And I got a section about that. I'm the smartest guy in the room. I built the business. I know. I'm going to show you how smart I am. I don't care what you say. I'm going to do what I want to do anyway. And you wonder why they have you in there in the first place then. And they do it. And it was wrong to begin with. And it continues to be wrong. And they go out of business.
You just hate
So-
that when the boss thinks he's smarter than everybody else. And in actual fact, they wouldn't be in the poo that they're in if they were smarter than everybody else in the room. So
I had one client where they brought us in because they wanted to put in a clean room operation, and they knew nothing about it. So we're going through and we're doing all the work, and the guy calls me up one day and says, I decided that I'm not going to put the air filtration system in, which is key to a clean room operation because you got to take all the nasties out of the air. He says, I'm just going to put air conditioning systems in. And I said, you're not going to have a clean room operation. I said, you brought us in because you didn't know what you were doing, and now all of a sudden you're the expert on it. Again, brightest guy in the room. I said, and I'm not going to sign off on that, because when you bring in a client and say, here's my clean room, and the guy goes, no, it's not a clean room. It's an air conditioned room, but it isn't clean. You're going to go, well, that Pete Christian guy, I had him in here and he didn't say there was a problem with that. I said, it's not going that way. So basically I fired the client. We stopped working with him. I said, I will not sign off on that myself and my company. If you're going to do that, you're on your own. Don't use our name. And we're done. We're done.
don't you
But you get
love-
clients like that. It just
Yeah.
amazes you. So yeah.
I've had to fire some clients too because they didn't get it. They don't get the whole process. It's just what you went back and call 24/7, and they don't understand you've got other clients, or you've got you have a life. You've got husband, you've got children, you've got something else other than them, and they just think spend 24/7 with me. No, thank you.
So that's what About the Vermin problem is about those instances, and to say to folks, you can be very successful or you can be less successful or even a failure, depending on the actions and the decisions you take in a variety of different capacities.
It's a terrific title for a book. Yeah, I'm going to have to go and
Thank you.
search that one out. Peter, where can people find you if they want to work with you?
You can find me on LinkedIn. I have a LinkedIn profile, Peter Christian. Peter Christian tends to be a fairly common name, but you can find me. I'm as an author, consultant, adjunct professor. I teach project management to folks that want to become certified in project management. So if you find that profile, that's me, and you can certainly connect with me there. I have a website, which is PeteChristianBooks.com. And that talks about not only the things that I've written, but also my speaking and so forth, and consulting. Or you can email me at phchristian and the number 53 at gmail.com. That's phchristian53 at gmail.com. Any one of those three. Just get in touch with me and say, I would like to chat about whatever it is you want to chat about, the business, just business in general and how things are going, what my opinion is on various things, and we can go from there.
Lovely. Thank you for sharing those details. Any last words of wisdom that you can share with our listeners and viewers today?
You can be successful. Because there are lots of successful people in this world, but you've got to be open-minded. You've got to change with the times. You can't be the know-it-all, and you shouldn't be the know-it-all. Nobody is. We are dependent on the people who work for us and with us, and the better that we work with them, the better off we're going to be. If you do those things, you've got a better than fair chance of being very successful. And if you don't, chances are good you won't be. And you'll be one of those statistics about the business that didn't make it, unfortunately.
Good advice. Very
Thank you.
sound advice. Yes. All right. Well, thank you so much for joining me today. It was a pleasure to meet you and have this conversation. And I know that our listeners will get a lot of benefit out of your wisdom.
Great. Thank you very much for having me. I appreciate it.
Talking with the experts.